Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. You are back at the spot, the place where the conversations are pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. Did you bring your thinking caps? If so, it's time to put them on because the conversation starts now. Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. You are back at the spot, the place where the conversation is pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. We're going to Australia. Yep, my second home. We're going to visit with Jade Kobel. She's a beautiful woman from Sydney, Australia. She is an ex-corporate girl to lifestyle mentor helping women build online income, but with a playful ambiance, a playfulness, not waiting for permission to do things, but creating opportunities, relishing in that, having a testimony, pouring it forward, speaking on it, finding your voice. You know, certain cultures, and we're going to talk to that a little bit, are a little bit more subdued, and that's by tradition, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But when you find yourself going the total polar opposite of what is expected, what adversity do you run into? What challenges? Do you lose yourself? Do you lose yourself in a culture that is not yours by design, but by necessity? So we're going to talk to her about that and a whole lot more. How are you, Jade?
I'm really well. Thank you so much, April, for having me here.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
So I'm Jade. I come from a corporate environment. I've been in corporate for like over 25 years. And recently I took a step of getting out of corporate into my own entrepreneur journey for my parents because they're not well, and I wanted the flexibility to travel a little bit more. So I started exploring my own journey, and as you just said, the my origin story is really about how I was a chronic people pleaser for most of my life, and how I discovered patterns within myself that I wasn't happy with. I wasn't a happy person. And I needed to break free of certain um, blind compliances that were keeping me.
How about perfectionism? That's a part of people pleasing too, is that it always has to be right. I can't make a mistake. If I do, somebody's watching, somebody's judging. So you want to be a people pleaser. You want everything to be right, but it's not going to work that way, Jade. It doesn't even feel good because you're putting on, as we call it, extra to appease other people. What was your wake up call? What was your moment that you just said, you know what, I'm pumping the brakes here. This does not make me feel good.
Hmm. So that moment came when I was on a train. And it happened when I was on my way back from work. And this was my first job when I first migrated to Australia. And all of a sudden, I was on this train and I just broke down crying. And I cried continuously for 4 hours and I could not stop. I felt distressed. I think looking back, I could have called that period depression, but I didn't recognize it as such. But what happened then really shocked me. I've never been in that way before. I've never cried for so long or so hard. So that actually made me pause to think about why I felt that way. I felt like I was overwhelmed. I didn't know who I was. And I think it all came off the back of the life that I had been living till that point, which was a very people-pleasing. I kept myself very small, very obedient to my husband at that time type of life. And it was so bad to the point where I had to ask his permission to buy a $5 t-shirt with my own money. So that was my wake-up call. And I think that was when I started to think about the choices that I made all my life to that point and why I was that way. So I started tracing back to when I was a child, how I was brought up, and I realized that a lot of things that I was taught when I was a child contributed to the way I was. So we can talk a little bit more about that.
You are what you eat. You are who you hang around. That is your culture. That is your that is really your crown and glory. Okay? Because if you did not know adversity or challenges, you would not be able to be grateful and understand gratitude and have a testimony. And
That
you
is so
you had
right.
one of those things that we call a God smack on the train. But it was good because it was an outpouring. And I know just all of a sudden you said, just where is this coming from? And then you have a partner, or that you want to be a partner, that you want to love, honor, cherish, and nurture, and they're treating you like a doormat,
Mm, yeah.
and then you look back and you say, look, I'm not in, I've been to China. And brains, I'm gonna tell you, it's a communist country, baby, but I loved it. It was law and order. It was clean. The food was good. People were respectful. They mind their business. I really kind of liked that part of it. But it was very, I shouldn't say mechanical. It was somewhat rigid that, okay, this is the law. This is what we do. We don't do out, we don't go outside of XYZ. So I can imagine growing up one way with parents. Now, what was your husband also Chinese?
Yeah, he's Chinese, and we were from Singapore.
Oh,
So yeah, so my parents, they were the first generation Singaporeans.
mm,
And I've been brought up in Singapore, but of course, they all came with the same culture and background of Confucius
mhm.
type teachings, where the woman had to obey her father, her husband, and then her son, because it was a very patriarchal type society.
Right. Okay. And then you step into a corporate environment,
Yeah.
and that's another kind of that's the westernized trickery. Well, really, I mean, you go from one extreme to the next. Okay, I'm going to conform. This is my discipline. This is who I am. I'm not going to give you a lot of problems. But then you're in a male dominated, environment, and it's pulling and tugging, and you're trying to do the right thing. Was that confusing and hard too?
Yeah, it definitely was. And I was also the first of, I'm in Gen X, I'm the Gen X generation. And we were the first generation that really went out to work full time in corporate. Our mothers and everyone, they basically had a heavier responsibility to look after things in the home. They did work, but they worked maybe part-time, or even um, lighter responsibility jobs, if you like, because the men kept them that way. So
Mhm.
growing up, I remember my mom, she was a homemaker. She was also a teacher because she was considered quite bright for her generation at that time. And she had big dreams for me, but she also came with a lot of traditional ways um, about about the way she would tell me to do stuff. Like, for example, if she ever needed help with housework, she would ask me to help her with it instead of my brother, all because I'm a girl. I
Yeah.
asked her why, and she said, it's because you're a girl, so you have to do the housework. And I'm going, but where does that come from? And of course, as a teenager growing up, I just felt that that was so unfair. And,
Let me
but
ask you
I,
a question. This is a real deep one that you can decide whether you feel comfortable answering it or not. When you come from, or you again lived in Singapore, I mean, you lived in Sydney or Singapore,
so Singapore is my background, so that's where I came from. Yeah.
okay, and then you end up in Australia.
Yeah.
Don't look like them Australians, girl. You don't talk like them. Your name is not pronounced the same. You're going to school. Your parents have a certain discipline, a certain work ethic, a certain gravitas. They demand excellence where that might not be the same as your counterparts and your schoolmates. Was that difficult too?
Yeah, it definitely was. And April, I just love the way you're so empathetic to different cultures. And it's just a
Absolutely, absolutely. The struggle is real. But like I told my other guests, every flower in the garden is not supposed to be the same way.
Mm.
And you are not supposed to play small. You are supposed to live your life out loud and in color. That's me. But some people work better in the background. They're more docile. They're not as outgoing and as boisterous as I am. But I do that and I do it on purpose because I want to recognize, love, and admire your difference. I don't want you to be like me. I don't want you to treat me a certain kind of way because I look different. I want you to value me for my difference. And the world is just, excuse me, jacked up like a soup sandwich, Jade. You ever had a soup sandwich?
It is really complex nowadays, indeed.
But it's been that way since the turn of time. You know,
Yeah,
even in I'll say a Asian culture where the women really admire the light, fair skin to the point where they wear umbrellas. They don't want to get darker. They want the milky white skin, and I get that.
yeah,
Okay, but then you have some that are dark. I've seen some
mm,
dark Asians.
yeah,
I was Asian in a previous life. I was Mongolian, and I'll tell you that story later. But I was Mongolian and African. So a Mongolian is Chinese and African. Okay,
mm,
so there is a huge divide. But what I'm hoping is don't separate me, include me.
mm,
Why? Teach me this. Talk to me about that. Share your culture, but be open enough to do that. So when you finally opened yourself up and you said,
mm,
I'm going to live a different life. Now, and you're very disciplined because you quit your job so that you could take care of your parents. That's something that other cultures don't do like we do. We
mm,
honor our seniors, our grandparents, our elders. We will do anything for them.
mm.
That's kind of not the way that it is now. So you've had so much sacrifice. When did you find the joy? When did you decide that, you know what, I'm going to flip the script and I'm going to write a whole new narrative?
Yeah, so when I had my awakening on that train, that was the moment that I decided to be a little bit more conscious about the choices and the things that I do. But it did take me quite some time to really break free of that first relationship. I did try to repair it. I did try to get financial control back. But the problem was I had already given away my power, and he was so used to being the one in charge and making all the decisions that when I um, asked for my power back to make my own decisions with my about my own money and how I spent it, that was how we started having a lot of difficulty in our relationship. And unfortunately, I could not resolve it. We could not resolve it, and that first marriage dissolved. But what I wanted to say was, being from a culture where I was taught to be small, I was taught to be seen and not heard. I had a lot of practices that was installed in me. I wasn't born asking for permission. I wasn't born to not play. I remember as a kid, all of us were kids once. We were born to play and we made mistakes, we laughed, we forgave ourselves, we got up and we went at it again.
Yep.
But somehow we lost that. And for me, I lost that in a big way growing up. And I can tell you this story about me and my piano teacher. So when I was 12 years old, I was a piano champion in Singapore.
Oh,
And it was a moment of great pride and joy for my family. They were so proud of me. But how I became a champion was another matter altogether. My piano teacher, he was well known for producing champions, but the way he did it was he was a very strict teacher. He would use his hands to smack his students if we ever did something wrong, like, play the wrong notes. He'll do things like, throw my water bottle across the room, send the keyboard cover on the piano come crashing down on your hands, just for playing a wrong note. And pianos in those times, the keyboard cover didn't have, it wasn't spring loaded. So it would just come come down, like, with a crash. So I went through all that, what we term physical abuse. I went through all that as a kid. And I remember my mom telling him, like, not to do that to me. He actually pinched my face so hard along the jawline that it left bruises for weeks, and it was so visible. And all my mother said to him was, if you need to punish her, just punish her in places where it cannot be seen. She said that. So I had no support at that time. And of course, now that I'm much older now, I have these conversations with her
Mhm.
because I know that whatever that she did in love. I was a piano champion and she wasn't. She just wanted me to have a life that she didn't have. And her background was she came from a life where hard work and just constantly doing things was the only way to get to be successful. That's all she knew. So for me, if I needed a little bit of whipping to get myself, to be the top in whatever that I did, so be it. The ends justified the means. That was her perspective, and it was out of love. I cannot hold her responsible.
Oh, I
But
get
what,
it.
yeah.
That's
And
like
and
some,
what it
like some
did,
wives or like some mothers will tell the girls, well, honey, marry up. Marry up. And he may hit you or he may drink or he may run around, but he's a good provider. He'll take care of the family. You'll have a good home. And again, the daughter was not the prodigal child. It was the male figure. I know when I was in Beijing, I think that they had just allowed you to have two children, even if one wasn't a male. It used to be, you know, you had to have a male, and then the daughter would do all the laborious stuff. So, okay, so I get that. Do you have children?
I have stepchildren.
Okay, that's a whole nother show.
I'll come back again.
Girl, 'cause I got a couple of them too, and that's another thing. But so you don't have biological children. If you
No,
had
I don't.
biological children, what would be some of the things that you would instill in them from what you've been through, what you're going through, and where you're going to? What would you say to them?
Yeah, so the biggest lesson that I learned for myself is you need to understand the choices that you're making. You need to have autonomy over your own decisions. Do not outsource your decision making to other people because the minute you do that, you start waiting for permission to do things. You start seeking approval all the time. And this takes you through your whole life. And that was what I found happened to me. And I wouldn't want that for any of my kids, regardless of whether they're biological or not. So I always encourage my kids to listen to themselves and understand what their passions are. And once they find their passions, right, to work on those passions. I no longer tell them to grow up to become a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant or an engineer.
Right, right.
So I just tell them to find your passions and understand why you love, what do you love to do? And
I
once you understand that, it's no longer work for you.
I had another guest on my show that migrated to Australia from Vietnam, and she is an artist. I'll send you her interview. Beautiful, an artist like you would not believe. But that was not what we want you to go to school for. You will be an accountant, you will be an engineer, you will be a doctor. This is what you will do. Art, how is that gonna feed you? How is that gonna cultivate you? What is that gonna do? It's pretty, you put it on the wall and then you keep it moving. Okay. But the challenge is if they find this in themselves, okay, they find this in themselves, but it's not supported. See, it's a back and forth. How do you continue to foster and bolster that self-esteem when you've got other people that are pulling you down? Now, I can see, it's very difficult 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, 16, 17. I get it. You have more of a choice and more flexibility when you're in 25, you're 30. You see life through a different set of eyes. You have a different lens on them. So it's very complicated And then once you find that, you have to rise up and greet that. It's not just automatic. Oh, okay, now I've got my, I've got my liberty, I've got my voice, I've got this. Okay, so who's going to support you in that? The same group of Debbie Downers that you've been hanging around with? You got to change you got to change your whole vibe. You got to change your whole tribe. Again, like you said, you had to change husbands. And there was
Yeah.
absolutely, you got,
Yeah.
you got to do what you got to do sometime. But you don't have to feel bad. And without that, you would not have a testimony. You would not know what gratitude is. So now you're in this space. What are you pouring into the women that you work with? And what are you saying when you speak on stage?
So, given my experiences so far, I always encourage my women to look at life as something that happens for you and not happens to you. So, like you said, April, everything that happened to me, I don't look at it as a bad thing that happened. I look at it as something that was necessary to happen so that I can grow as a human being. And having those experiences now empowers my teaching, and I'm able to better relate to other women who may or may not be going through the same thing exactly, but it's the same type of feeling and emotional support that they might need as they seek a way out or seek a way to grow or even seek a way to feel more gratitude for things that they're going through. So having gratitude is definitely the first thing that I teach my women to feel. But also now I have a framework called play. And this was something that I discovered after I left my first husband. I sat down and had deep reflective sessions, with, mentors and coaches and my friends who I trusted. And I realized that the pattern that I've been operating on is really autopilot. It was ingrained and installed in me as a child. And I carried it forward through my adult years and into everything that I did, into my marriage, into the way I worked at corporate, the way I showed up basically in the world. I felt I needed to know my place. I felt I needed not to speak out of turn. I
Right.
couldn't make mistakes and I had to be perfect. And that led me into this whole stress that I felt was now I feel is unnecessary. I shouldn't have had to go through all that stress that caused my hair to fall out. At one point in my life, I had alopecia and
Mm,
hair fell out in clumps. And I didn't realize that it was the stress that I was going through being with an ex-husband who was controlling me that much. So all that exhibited itself in health problems. And then I realized that during the good times, like during the times that I was happy at working for good managers who allowed me to play at work
mhm.
brought me so much joy. And I have to say, some of the managers literally saved my life when I was going through such personal drama at home, being controlled, not being able to have a say in things or decisions.
Would he
Go
would he would he mentally abuse you and verbally abuse you or physically or all of it?
It started with financial control. It
Um,
started with controlling what I wore. It started from there, and even the decision to migrate to Sydney to Australia was a decision that I wasn't fully on board with, and I still needed to comply. I went to my parents and I told them how I felt, and all my dad said was, "He is your husband, follow him." So
wow.
again, it's that compliance, that blind compliance that was installed in us as a culture that I needed to follow the husband. So I did it, but I did it at the cost of my health. I swallowed my objections and it exhibited in my body in symptoms. And it took me 6 years after that point in the train to get out of my marriage because it snowballed into a little bit of verbal abuse, and I got out because I didn't want it to become physical abuse before I would make a move.
Absolutely. Now, let's fast forward to where you are now. And you established some boundaries in your life after those 6 years. You drew a line in the sand. You said, you know what? Some of these things are non negotiable. And you opened yourself up to love again. Was that a challenge? Is he also Chinese, your new husband?
No, he's Australian.
He's Australian. So you got a different vibe now. You
Exactly.
maybe that was not the same. um, I don't want to say culture because I don't want to lump everything together. Same discipline, same mindset that it was before. Was it harder for you to trust and let go and let love the second time?
My now husband is actually the second serious relationship that I had after the breakup of my first marriage. So after my first marriage, I did have a partner in between. And I have to say that relationship made me grow so much to
Mhm.
understand myself and what I wanted and didn't want in a partner. And I would forever be grateful to him because he was so different from my first husband. And yet at the same time, he came with qualities that wasn't aligned with mine. So I grew even more to understand my boundaries, who I wanted, what I wanted for my life, and who I wanted to be. And that relationship came to a natural end before I found my second husband. And this man, he is such a treasure. You know how cliched it might sound. Some people they might tell you, oh, I go looking for a man. I've got these boxes. He has to tick this box. I've got 10 boxes that he needs to tick, right? He has to pass this test. He has to pass the job test. He has to pass the cat. Does my cat like him test?
Right,
Do my parents like him? Right? So there were so many boxes that he needed to tick. Best
right.
friends, everything. And his personality, he is so open and trusting and he's so aligned with the way I feel I wanted to grow to be. He lets me be who exactly I am.
Okay, so what'd your daddy say?
My daddy,
Did he say,
he,
okay, how much does he make, honey? How
yeah, exactly. So
many
one of the
businesses
first
does he
questions,
own? Yes, yes, yes.
yeah. But of course, he came with three children. Um, yeah,
I say that with love. I told you I already have stepchildren. I know what that's about. Oh, I bet that was a conversation. And
it was.
you didn't have your own grandchildren for your mom and dad. Oh boy.
Yeah, so of course they wanted their own grandchildren. And when they heard that I was seeing a man with three children, naturally they tried to talk me out of it. And they were warning me of, complex situations that I will encounter and everything. But for me, I was at the point where I wanted a family, and I actually viewed the three children as a ready-made family. Like, yay! It was like I don't have to give birth anymore.
So you had this ready-made family, and that was an adjustment too, because they had to get acclimated to you as you had to get acclimated to them. That was a whole different growth pattern. But you incorporated this thing called play. Did you use that mindset and some of those same techniques in that? And explain to us what play actually means and what it does for people.
So when I discovered play as the mechanic to get myself out of overthinking things or being too critical of myself, I applied it to all the relationships that I made after my second partner. And and it was really eye-opening to see how much value I brought to those relationships
Right.
and to see people grow and become even better versions of themselves. Like even for me, I grew to become a better version of myself when I'm with my second husband. It was just beautiful to watch. The spirit of play is really about psychological safety. So
Mm,
being able to let the kids play with me from the very first moment we met, made them feel like, hey, it's like Jade could be really fun to be with. Oh, okay, she could be a good stepmother. So I remember playing improv games with them from the first time we met, and it really broke the ice for all of us. And after that, I continued to apply my framework: P for pause, L for listen, A for ask, and Y for yoke, continually applying that to all the situations and scenarios that I will find myself in with them, and encourage them as well to understand me in return, like the kind of person that I was and the things that I stand for. So being playful and having that framework between us, even though I don't explain it to them in so many words, I explain it to my women, but using the same framework on them really helped our relationship to what it is today.
But you know what play is? Play is a strategy.
Mm. It is.
Uh, Chess is a strategy. Checkers is a strategy. Playing 21 card game is a strategy. You got to know when to hold and when to fold. You got to know when to move. Sometimes, again, you want to find your voice, but that voice does not have to be bombastic. It can be soft, quiet, and demure and still have the same effect. Maybe more so because you're being heard. When people are yelling and screaming and aggressive, they're not being heard. And that is the big $25 word that people want, is that they want to be heard. They want to be seen.
Exactly.
And when
Yeah.
small, that's hard because now you're playing dual roles. Oh, okay. Well, I want to be seen. I want to be recognized. I want to be rewarded. I want to be valued. However, I can't make a decision on my own, and I can agree to disagree, but I can't be disagreeable. It's very convoluted. And so, how did you develop play? Was this some coaching that you had, training, counseling, or is this your own brainchild?
Myself, but I do know that having the spirit of play has a lot of logical safety. It's something that I feel I lacked growing up as a kid and into adulthood. So it came about when I was in a coaching session with one of my mentors. And they were encouraging us, to look deep within ourselves and understand what we really want to do, what our personality really is like. And I remember having lost my spirit of playfulness
Mhm.
ever since I felt I was repressed, I was kept small, and I used to be really playful as a kid. I would do things, I would make mistakes. My mom would yell at me, but I remember having this carefree spirit of not caring, if
Right.
it makes any sense. But somehow growing up, I became a really small version. It's like those Russian nesting dolls. I became a smaller and smaller version of myself until one day I found myself standing in that store holding that $5 t-shirt and rehearsing how to ask my husband for permission to buy it. How
Wow.
did I ever get there? So I got myself out of there, out of that relationship, examined why I was that way. And I really tried to use willpower initially. Like, Jade, why are you so small? Why can't you be bigger? Like, I tried to apply all the things that I learned from Brene Brown and everything. Why can't you do this? Like, think bigger, take up more space, right? All the gurus would tell you that. But I only found that to be more stressful for my nervous system because my whole life, my brain has kept me safe by staying small.
Right. Right.
So telling it to do something else that was totally contrarian to everything that I have learned and been my whole life was extra stress that my body just wouldn't take. I just became more stressed.
So, where are you at now? I want
So,
you are in this moment.
so in this moment, I have truly adopted my own message. I have given myself the grace to play, to make mistakes, and to embrace mistakes. I no longer look at it as it's something for me. to be ashamed of. It's no longer a shame for me. Mistakes now is data for me. It's information. I look at it as something that I can use to fuel my growth into this next phase in my life.
Wow.
So this next phase in my life just needed me to be so much more confident.
Right.
And I can tell you, April, to get that confidence, I just did something really silly. I decided to enter a public speaking competition.
Really? Okay.
For, for someone like me who has always stayed behind the scenes and
Hmm.
knowing that I needed to grow myself in the fastest way possible, to grow my own self-confidence and my own self-trust, I
Wow.
decided to take a leap of faith. I joined a speaking competition and I found a community there who are so loving and really so supportive of everyone's growth. I am so grateful that I found that community because I wouldn't be the way I am today if not for them.
Well, again, you have to be that for yourself. So before we conclude the interview, Jade, this has really been powerful for a lot of individuals. There's a lot of men too. You know, we say women all the time, but there's a lot of men that have been squished down. People want to turn down their light. I don't know if you work with men, but maybe you can give them a referral. Maybe you have an online program that they can look into because this is very personal. This is doing the deep dive. This is very intimate with yourself. You're going to have to do some inner child work. You're going to have to do some breath work, some meditation, some more crying. But then when you come out on the other side, look at that smile now. I mean, it's you can't put a price on it. And you're happy. And now you have enough in your coffer that you can pour the overflow and share with someone else. So let me ask you some fun questions. If you could go back and have a conversation with a 25-year-old Jade Kobel, what would you be saying to her?
I would tell her to remember who she is and not forget her spark. So she always had fun at work. She always had fun in her friendships, relationships. Don't forget that just because you take on a role called a wife and you feel like you need to be a different person. Do not change. Stay who you are and be authentic. That would be what I would tell her.
All right. So what about setting boundaries? Because yes, we're playful, but sometimes people misconstrue playfulness as being naive. And again, a doormat. Just walk all over me, because I'm a nice person. Don't get it twisted. you know, do you set clear boundaries now for yourself? Because that's a part of it as well.
Yeah, for sure. And
If you were a flower in the garden, Jade, what flower would you be?
oh, a periwinkle.
A periwinkle.
I don't know why that popped into my head. Um, like a small flower,
Okay.
uh,
All right.
but still pretty. And there's a lot of and they tend to be a lot of it. So again, if you have an idea, I want it to grow and populate.
Okay. If you were an appliance in the kitchen, what appliance would you be?
Um, I'll be the pressure cooker
Oh
because
boy.
because it gets things done the fastest, the quickest, and the tastiest.
Right, that's right. And then when you pop it open, all the steam comes out.
Yeah.
Um, what bird do you align with?
Um, um, oh gosh, I was gonna say the hawk.
Hmm. When I saw you, you know what I thought? I
Hmm.
thought the crane.
The crane.
Crane. I did.
Oh, beautiful. Wow. Thank you.
I do.
It's an elegant creature.
It is an elegant creature, from the Chinese culture, and the long you gave it, the long neck to reach out, to not be afraid, but also the wingspan.
Um,
See you as a crane.
oh, beautiful. Thank you so much, April. You warm my heart.
Uh, you were a car. What kind of car would you be?
Oh, it has to be quick. I want to do things quick. So,
All right, I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
it's not just the spirit of play, it's also a framework that I now use. And you're right, I will give that framework to my 20 as well. So P is really pausing before you respond to something on autopilot just because you're a nice girl, just
Right.
because you've been conditioned to say yes. So before you say that yes, understand why you're saying yes. All I'm saying is make intentional choices. Pause and then after that, listen. Because all my life, I've listened to tradition, my culture, what my mom brought me up to be. Like, you're the girl, you have to do the housework type thing, right? Listen to what voice is telling you to do certain things. Why are you saying yes? And why are you being nice? Once you understand where the voice is coming from, then you take action, which is the A in play. So, A for action, right? After you listen and you know where it's coming from, you take the appropriate action. Do you want to act on it like the way you've been taught? Or do you want to take a different contrarian action? Because taking that courageous contrarian action actually will build your own self-trust. But make a choice. Do not just go into it unconsciously. And
Okay.
then why? Why stands for yoke. So yoking the results that you have gleaned from all your experiences, every lesson that you've learned, all the results that you have, yoke them all together and take the lessons into your next step. So you continuously grow consciously and intentionally. You're
Wow.
never taken for granted again.
Wow. Look at that, brains. You got the framework, the recipe for success. I want them to work with you. I really do. Tell my brains how to get in contact with you, Jade, so that they can follow you. They can follow your progress as a speaker. You've been doing some great reels. I've been sharing them with my brains. Continue to do that. And you know what, brains? You might be docile. You might be suppressed. You may be insecure. You might be shy, or you might be controlled. But you can take that control back. But you have to have a framework. You have to have a strategy. You have to know where you're headed. You have to have a destination. I mean, you can't just get in the car and just say, oh, okay, whatever. You have to have a destination. You have to know where you want to go. And so I think that that's a beautiful thing. Jay, tell them how to get in contact with you, Precious.
Oh, everyone, I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook under my name, Jade Kobel. So that's how you can get in contact with me.
Well, Brains, I'm going to put all of her contact information in the back. I think that she is very special. I hear your voice and I do see you. And I'm so happy for you that you um, don't feel that everything has to be perfect. You know, everything is not supposed to be perfect. If it was, then there would be no growing, there would be no developing, there would be no sharpening our knife, there wouldn't be anything to share. So we can't be perfect. And I kind of like imperfection. I kind of like the flaws.
Thank you so much, April. You're wonderful. Thank you so much.
And brains, you are flawless. Okay. I need you to go love, like, share, and subscribe right here on the edge. YouTube, like it, leave a comment. If there's more deep dive that you would like to go into with Jade, reach out to her. I'm sure that she'll give you 15, 20-minute coffee chat to see where you are, to help you assess, whether you opt to maybe have her as your coach or work with her or not. The exchange of information and knowing that you are not alone is valuable within itself. Thank you so much for being here on the Edge, Jade. You are the best.
Oh, thank you so much, April. Thank you.